Welcome to Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're at Club 20 today in Grand Junction. We are joined by Phil Chamberlain. He is a Gunnison County Commissioner living in Crested Butte. Tough life, I am sure, living in paradise. I want to talk about Gunnison because Gunnison has its own sage grouse. You know, the entire nation, at least in the West, we're very focused on the sage grouse. There are 11 states that have the sage grouse, and there's a question about listing of the sage grouse. But y'all got your own.
Yes.
You have your own sage grouse, the Gunnison sage grouse. Tell us about this animal.
Well, I like to say that you have the Gunnison sage grouse and you have the greater sage grouse,
right.
And in my opinion, there is no greater sage grouse than the Gunnison sage grouse.
So tell us about the great Gunnison sage grouse.
It's actually a great bird. It's got a very unique mating routine that is very fun to watch, and so we have some. Yes. Mm-hmm. So we have viewing of it, and it became threatened.
Right.
Or listed as a threatened species here recently.
And let's talk about that, because that really, I think the Gunnison sage grouse debate really is kind of a model, a paradigm for what's happening with the greater sage grouse. So as I understand it, Gunnison had been working with the Fish and Wildlife, and the Fish and Wildlife has praised Gunnison for its work on trying to preserve the Gunnison sage grouse. So Gunnison was a little nervous, the county, about a listing, either threatened or endangered. Correct. Environmentalists were hoping for an endangered
Correct.
listing, so it could be no listing, threatened, or endangered.
Correct.
That's the kind of the upward scale. Ultimately, there was a threatened listing, which is kind of middle ground.
Correct.
How did Gunnison County take that? What was your view of that listing?
Well, frankly, we felt that it was close to a slap in the face.
Oh, really?
When we look at what
Right.
the county has done over the past, since 1994, the county has been in one form or another working actively to preserve the bird and preserve the habitat and to do what is right for the bird on the ground.
And what's so interesting, sir, is that the environmentalists did the same thing, because they wanted an even more severe listing. They wanted the endangered listing.
Actually, just the extreme environmentalist side has that feeling. I think that we've worked well with some environmental groups in the process over the last 15, 20 years in this, and we've had them at the table to say, okay, how do we fix this, and how do we make sure that the bird is surviving and the bird is thriving? Right. And so what took us aback was that we accomplished that goal. And, in the mid-2000s, this working group became officially a part of what we were sanctioning at the Gunnison County as the strategic committee, Gunnison Sage Grouse Strategic Committee, and at that table we had the Fish and Wildlife Service, we had BLM, we had the Forest Service, we had ranchers, we had environmental groups, we had the county, everybody working towards the solution to how do we preserve this bird and what's best for the bird, and frankly our numbers show that we were doing our job and we were working well.
So, as it is in America, what happens? Gunnison County sued, and the environmentalists sued.
Now that's the interesting part. Is
Both
that
sued.
Is that right? So we're on board with the Fish and Wildlife Service, who are defending themselves against a lawsuit from the extreme side of the environmental group who wanted endangered, and so we're going to help them defend that. But at the same time, we're also going to look at proving to the courts that it was not warranted.
Now, why is it, though, that you meaning the county, is upset about that threatened designation? What does that designation create? Are there onerous regulations, burdens? I mean, some could argue that maybe it's a good thing the feds are sending over $200 million, But
they're not.
Talk to me.
In my opinion, we've been working on this. Gunnison County, before I was a commissioner, but they had the foresight to hire a wildlife biologist. Now we're probably one of the only, if not the only, county that actually has on staff a wildlife biologist, and we bought it specifically to make sure that we were doing the right thing for the Gunnison sage grouse. We've had no money from the feds. We've been working on this for 20 years, and we talked to the Fish and Wildlife Service, who's at our table at the strategic committee, and say, we need money for conservation easements. Part of the plan is to conserve this habitat for the bird, and the way to do that is find willing landowners, and there are many willing landowners, ranchers especially, who want to maintain their ranching lifestyle, that would sell conservation easements to protect that land in perpetuity, and we have a lot of it already done. And so we'd ask the Fish and Wildlife Service, well, can we not get some money to help? And they say, well, we can't give you any money basically till it's listed.
But what I understand is they're saying now that there's a threatened listing, there's $211 million available for conservation work on private and public ranch lands. No, it's not coming.
I don't think it's going to come in the way that the people think it is. It's not like they're going to come over and give
Here's
us
a check,
money
Bill.
and you want to buy some conservation easements, things of that nature. And so this is what it will cost them to administer the listing. It's not.
I want to ask about a plan that Governor Hickenlooper has proposed. Now, it's not with regard to the Gunnison sage grouse. It's regard to the greater sage grouse. But he's looking at creating these habitat exchanges. Are you familiar with this, where there are credits for those that put aside land for grouse habitat, and those credits can be sold? It's almost like a cap and trade system that you hear about in California.
We do with water already when it comes to wetlands mitigation and wetlands banking. And so if you're going to dry up a wetland here, then you have to create a wetland or have somebody who, and so I think that concept.
What do you think of that concept?
I think it's got some merit that, again, when it comes to trying to protect habitat for all species,
of course.
I think we should look at every tool that we have available to us, and I think it's a tool that might be useful.
I want to broaden out our discussion a bit and talk about litigation that can be used as a weapon. I used to be a lawyer, I'm sorry. I gave up my license, so I'm okay now, I think. I don't know what's lower in stature, though, a journalist or a lawyer. They're both pretty low, but be that as it may. Talk to me about what you perceive to be litigation as a weapon, used as a vehicle as a weapon.
Well, frankly, I see that we have federal laws that is called the Equal Access to Justice. And that allows a litigant who may sue the government for whether it be listing or not listing or for many issues, EPA issues and clean water issues.
Like a whistleblower type of situation?
No, it's just a thing where like currently many environmental groups have turned this into basically just their way of business, and we had and
as I understand it, just for our viewers, it becomes a revenue model.
Correct.
Because under certain American laws, there's fee shifting. And
well, what happens is if a group sues the federal government and they win on an ESA listing or on an EPA issue, then they are allowed to recover their court costs. And so what we have in many cases is you'll have organizations that have offices in Chicago and New York, and so
coming to Crested Butte.
Well, what they do is they file the lawsuits over here where the fees are much higher, and so their reimbursements are much higher, but the work is being done in Crested Butte or in other areas, and so that they've actually gotten to the point where they're very sophisticated and are able to create a revenue stream for themselves.
So have you spoken with Senators Gardner or Bennett?
Oh, I think everybody is very familiar with that.
And so is there a will to try to reform the system in such a way that still allows for appropriate filing of litigation, but not litigation that is used as a weapon or as a way to seed a budget?
Well, what I've asked is if you want to really name it equal access to justice, then I think if they win, pay them their fees. If they lose, they should pay the federal government our fees, right?
That's what England has that system, I believe.
There's such a huge pot of money that's going towards litigation, and we already know that the federal agencies don't have enough to do the on the ground work.
His name is Phil Chamberland. He is a commissioner in Gunnison County. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's Charter Local Edition.